Yeah, those are two of about 17 hats I wear working for Carol. But I always loved photography. I got to the ranch, as I told you, sort of to take a break from the music business and think about what I wanted to do next. Eric, my husband Ian's father, set up a dark room in our cabin. Ranch life in the high Rocky Mountains is very intense in the summer months, and then in winter you have a lot of downtime because you can't do outdoor projects aside from plow snow. So I spent a lot of time those first couple of winters teaching myself to print and sort of refining my eye. And because I had grown up in LA and New York, the kind of landscapes that Idaho had were so magnificent that I at first took these grand photos of, mountains and rivers and beauty that were not unlike postcards. But then as I got more familiar with the landscape, I got closer. And instead of shooting the whole river, I was shooting the ice at the edge of the river. And instead of shooting the horses in the field, I was shooting the snow on their mane. And through that work, which was sort of up close, macro, textural, abstract, I got the attention of Sun Valley Magazine, which was a local magazine, and that led to an assignment to photograph wild horses. And long after I delivered the photos, I kept going back because it was like being with unicorns. They're wild horses. They don't need us. And there's a political piece to it, too. I could go on for about an hour about this, so catch me.
Keep going.
Catch me.
Elissa Kline is talking to us today, and she is a wild horse activist. And so you So I photographed these horses, and what I found was two things. They don't really need us. Just like deer and elk, they found a way. They weren't waiting for someone to bring them hay. And the other thing, which we don't know about when we just look at domestic horses, is they live in very small family groups. And I had pictured Marlboro commercials of like 500 wild horses running across the plains, but they stay in these small family bands, 3, 5, 7, 12, not a lot. And so when the roundups happen, not only are they removed from the land, but they're separated from their families. The old mares go here, the young mares go here, the stallions go over here. And, that was sort of an echo of a Holocaust for me, personally. I photographed these horses for 8 years before I photographed their roundup. And it was heartbreaking. And who runs them up? I don't know anything about this.
Okay, so wild horses are supposed to be protected on public lands that we all own, Americans own and pay taxes on. The Bureau of Land Management is charged with managing the lands, and the cattle industry leases public land. There are, I could be off on this, but I think it's 200 livestock to every wild horse on public land. The wild horses don't make anyone money, so they're removed, and they're warehoused, and we're all paying for it. And it's not only cruel, but it's expensive. And it's unnecessary. There are ways to manage the horses on the ground, which I've learned about through this sanctuary that I had nothing to do with starting, but I am on the board. It's called Return to Freedom, and I urge you, if you're interested, to look into it, because there's a lot of information. It's a very complicated topic and a very heartbreaking one.
And so if you're also, my dear audience, interested in seeing Elissa Kline's work, you can go to Elissa Kline Photography, and Elissa's ELISSA Kline, KLINE, photography.com.
Right.
And there you'll be able to see many of your horse pictures.
Also, what I keep updating more often than my website is Elissa Kline Photography on Facebook.
Oh, that's a good one too.
And Instagram.
And so tell us more about, so kind of this progression that you went through? Because you didn't come at it as an activist.
I call myself a reluctant advocate. I really did not want to take on this big cause. And in fact, when Sun Valley Magazine asked me to take photos of the wild horses, I said no about 5 times because I knew that it had the potential to break my heart, and it has many times over. It's a fight for land. For me, I love horses, but the fight for me is about wildness and the value of wildness, which is important. It's hard for us, those of us who live in cities, to know how important it is for us to have some land that is untouched. And these animals are surviving on their own without our help, and they're not hurting anyone. But it's, like I said, it's a really complicated issue. It's political. It's, got lobbyists. The cattle lobby is very strong. Wild horse advocates are very passionate, but there's not a lot of money. When you rescue a horse, you're committing to 20 years of taking care of animals. Return to Freedom has pretty close to 400 horses, and we're, like all nonprofits, we're always scrambling for help and support, and horses need to be fed. That's the bottom line, unless they live on the wild where they're living for free, which is where they should be.
Right.
So
tell us about the first time you were able to help rescue some wild horses.
Well, I've witnessed the roundup, and I was actually giving a speech with an author, Deanne Stillman, who wrote a book called Mustangs, and I was showing my slideshow and speaking publicly, which is not my most comfortable thing. And I was looking at these pictures of the horses in the wild, knowing that most of those horses weren't there anymore. And I kind of broke up and started to cry and just said, if any of you can adopt these horses, let's at least keep them in Idaho. And after that talk, a woman came up to me and said, I don't know anything about wild horses, and I don't have any money, but I have a nonprofit for animal rescue. And with her help and another friend of mine, we adopted 21 mares that were scheduled to go to long-term holding. And that's a sort of a euphemism for slaughter. And of those mares, 10 of them were pregnant, so all of a sudden we find ourselves with 30 horses. And we raised money for them in Idaho for about 3 years, and then we just, what happens is people burn out, and they want the next cause and the next cause, and everyone sort of goes. They don't want to keep sustaining horses for 30 years. So I went to a woman named Netta DeMeo who runs Return to Freedom, and I just said, I don't know what to do. I've got 30 horses. And she basically said, bring them to me and join my board. So I did.
How big of a land is it in Lompoc to be able to...
Not nearly big enough.
For 200 horses?
It's more than 200, and it's about 300 acres, and we are desperately trying to raise money for a preserve where we can put them in a situation much like they were living in the wild and be more self-sustaining. When you have that many horses on such a small amount of land, you have to feed them, and the latest crisis is our well has just gone dry, so now we're trucking in water.
And so the Return to Freedom would be called the website is Return to Freedom.
ReturnToFreedom.org, yeah.
ORG, and it's in Lompoc, California. And so the sanctuary has been able to get horses from all over the U.S.?
Yep. All over, different areas, intact families, trying to keep the genetics of certain bands alive, because a lot of these horses are basically being managed to extinction. Some of them come from the Spanish horses, the Native American
conquistadors
colonies.
Came. Yeah.
So it's an incredible place. If you're ever near Santa Barbara, Lompoc, you can visit. Yeah, there are tours. And
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
And so they're completely undomesticated. They don't try to...
Some of the young ones, it's pretty hard to domesticate a horse that's lived for 12 years in the wild.
Right.
But some of the young ones are friendly.
Nice. So, Ian, you want to play another song for us so we can get a little uplifted here after?
Yeah, sorry. He's a lot happier than I am. Sorry. It's not that fun.
Ian, what are you going to play for us?
This is a song called Falling Stars in Luck, and hopefully it'll sort of carry a similar message of what my mom was just talking about, because it's sort of a call to action type of song.
One road that leads us home, back to the roots of the trees that we've grown so far. So far we've come to be nowhere at all. Fall deepens hearts, and the spring can tear them back apart. So far, so far, the winds of change don't change at all. Grow, grow old, grow, just don't grow cold. Take all the time that you need. I truly believe you will find a way. You'll find a way. Love, it's like a torch in the dark, illuminating parts that you'd never think to see at the start. Your heart was made to shine through all these walls. So shine on and trust in the sun. It holds the key to each and every one of us. We all are made of falling stars and luck. Grow, grow old, grow, just don't grow cold. Take all the time that you need. I truly believe you will find a way. Now we need to grow. We lost our way so long ago. Hold on to hope and never let it go. You know it's alright, it's our time to grow. We'll take all the time that we need. I truly believe we will find a way.
That was beautiful. Ian Janco, what a great song to follow up with your mom's story about her work with wild horses and rescuing, and her work with the sanctuary, Return to Freedom. If you want to look it up, it's returntofreedom.org, and it's here in Lompoc, California, near Santa Barbara. Elissa, when you're not photographing horses, you're photographing some other kind of wild people, aren't you?
Well, yes. Perhaps less wild than we used to be, all of us. But yeah, I go out sometimes as Carol's photographer. And
that's Carol King.
Carol King, sorry. Just sort of she knew of my photography, and when she went out, I think it was in 2004 for the first time, I went out, and I had no idea if I'd be a good concert photographer, but what I found is I take good pictures of things I love, and that's the music I grew up with, and I was lucky enough to go out in 2010 with James Taylor and Carole King on the Troubadour Reunion Tour, and not only was I photographing them, but the musicians that meant so much to me who played on all the albums I loved in the 70s, Danny Korchmar and Lee Sklar and Russ Kunkel, and I just felt like the luckiest girl in the world because I was traveling with these people, and they would go on stage, and I'd go out into the audience with my camera and my all-access pass and had a blast.
All right.
Really fun.
And you're still doing that,
I still do that, yeah. Carol's not touring as much lately. We did go to Australia in 2013. She's doing more political things this year, so not out on tour. But, yeah, I love it. I love it.
And would people be able to see those photographs also?
I have on my website, I have a gallery of concert photography as well. Lots of stuff on Carole King's website on a pretty regular basis, and also on CaroleKing.com.
Nice.
We're plugging everybody.
Of course. And again, we want to plug yours, ElissaKlinePhotography.com, and you also like to send people to the Facebook page, Elissa Kline Photography. And so you, I know you've been traveling quite a bit. You were in New York City in the spring. You were in LA. Tell us what you've been doing.
Well, New York was a kind of fun trip because there's a play on Broadway, a musical about Carole King's life.
That's right.
And she had not seen the play. She felt sort of like, I've lived it. I don't really want to watch somebody else reenacting my life. But she finally decided. She didn't go to the premiere. She gave it her blessings, but didn't want to be involved. And then one day she called and said, I think I'm ready, but I don't want to go as me. I want to wear a wig, and I don't want to have people watch me watching my life. So I went with her, and so did her daughter and manager, Sherry Condor. And she wore a brown wig and looked like, Aunt Susan. And we walked into the theater. No one noticed who she was. And we watched it, and we all kind of grabbed each other's hands and cried in certain parts and laughed in other parts. And then towards the end of the second act, they whisked her backstage. And the cast was doing a Broadway fundraiser pitch, and they were talking to the audience, trying to get them to raise money. I'm forgetting the name of the charity right now. I'm sorry. But then all of a sudden, Carole walked out, and
they took the brown wig off.
Yeah, she came out as her, and that no one knew that she was there. The audience didn't know. The cast didn't know, and it's on. There's a YouTube video of it. Carole King shows up, so that was pretty fun, and I photographed that. That was kind of a kick.
And then the money flowed.
Yeah, well, it definitely bumped it up a little. The Tony Awards didn't hurt either. Yeah.
Right.
So that was fun, and Carole does a lot of political activism, and I travel with her when she does fundraisers. And
so, what's some of her favorite causes right now?
Oh, Carole is Alliance for the Wild Rockies. She has been working tirelessly on a bill called NREPA, Northern Rockies Ecosystem Protection Act, that is a huge and comprehensive bill to tie up a lot of wilderness before it's eaten up by all the, extraction industries, etc.
Okay, well, there you go, folks. This has been such a great show. Elissa Kline and her son, Ian Janco, both artists in their own right, using different medium, though. Elissa, you do come from a recording engineering background. You've done it before.
I did it back in the ancient old school days when there was tape and records.
And you had to use a razor and tape
I used
things?
to be really good at splicing and sequencing, two totally unused and lost arts.
Now that we do complete digital.
Yes, yeah.
Have you kept up with the digital recording? Or is that more of Eric's?
No, I don't really. I kind of did that, and I understand it when I go listen to mixes. Ian sometimes asks my opinion, and I feel like, bring the vocal down or a little. The drums are over. So the sensibility is still there, but I don't use Pro Tools.
Right. The whole
I use Photoshop.
The platform of recording is evolving so fast that even if you were actively using it, it's still hard to keep up with it. You have to get software updates all the time. You didn't have to update your tape machines back in the day.
Update your tape.
Degauss them. There you go.
And so, Ian, what are you using for your editing tools?
I'm using Pro Tools 11 mostly, which is the newest sort of top tier stuff, which is just because my dad has been using Pro Tools for years and years.
Pro Tools is the professional editing.
That's why it is called Pro Tools.
Appleton also is a good one. I bet you're going to be learning all kinds of different things at the Liverpool Institute of Arts, which is where Ian Janco is going to be going in 5 quick days. Yep. But before then, I know I keep wanting to cry for Elissa here.
I'm going to visit very soon, so that's okay.
Elissa's going to be visiting Liverpool real soon. And so you're going to be playing Ian Janco at the Art Bar Saturday, the 6th of September. The event starts at 6 p.m. You'll be performing at 8:30. This is to help Guitars Not Guns, an organization that brings music education to kids. And then you'll be also releasing your newest CD, Beautiful Mystery.
That's correct.
And you'll be playing at the Pomo Grill, Bar and Grill tonight, folks, at 7 o'clock during their open mic. Elissa Kline, your work can be found at elissaklinephotography.com, also at Elissa Kline Photography on Facebook. And you are working, a lot of your work is with the Return to Freedom Sanctuary for Wild Horses in Lompoc. And
that is it.
I am so grateful for you both to come on. I'm also really grateful to Vanya Benavides, who live tweets and Facebook's posts every week on this show. And we're going to go out with one more song, Never Fall. And Ian, you want to tell us just a second about that?
Sure. Before I say that, I just wanted to take one moment to thank Santa Cruz. Now that I'm leaving, I'm just looking back on all the great memories I have here. I played music on the streets since I was 16, and it's just been such a fostering environment. So I just wanted to say that if you're listening, support local music, and that doesn't mean just give money to it. Just if you see someone playing who looks like they're just starting out, just listen to them and give them your undivided attention, and you'll be surprised with the difference you can make. So therefore, this song is a collaboration with a really good friend of mine, Andrew Vicente, who goes by Amplified. He's a up-and-coming, really talented rapper from San Jose, and this is a little collaboration we made called Never Fall.
I also want to say thank you to Eric Gilberg, who was tireless in getting this to happen, this show today. Sit back and relax, everybody. We're moving out of Artists on Art with one more song by Ian Janco called Never Fall. And then Highway 61 is coming up. I'm going to be subbing for the fabulous DJ, and I'm going to be playing some crazy Balkan music, because that's where I come from. In the meantime, Ian Janco up next. Have a great day, everybody, and thanks for listening.
Lay it down, let our energy plant many seeds. Verbally, we float over the 7 seas. How could I fly when I stay so featherless? I stay down to the earth, that's foreverness. But still dream if I'm flying on Pegasus. No need to plead, I was a pessimist. Once believed that the world was my nemesis, but now I'm learning of its patience and gentleness. Take time to grow, cause that's evidence. And never sell the soul just for the benefits. And don't hope for the gold if you're effortless, cause they ain't roll for an ocean of pettiness. What if I'm broke doing shows and I'm penniless? I still chosen to flow through the definite. So when I'm gone, I've committed to this emphasis, where all the shades of this black and gray coexist.
You can try to bring me down, I'll never fall, no way, I'll never fall. You can try to take my sunny days away,